So, good morning. Welcome to our first session. You are?
Anine.
Anine, welcome Anine. So, the problem that you seem to be having is just relationships in general and just talking about relationships. So, we're going to have a 6-week program that we're going to be doing of 6 sessions, 1 per week, and we'll just see how we come along with that. We'll talk a bit about it, a few different things. For example, today we will just do a summary of everything. The session 2 we'll be talking about starting relationships or the struggles of starting a relationship, for example. Day 3 we'll be talking more in depth about developing intimacy. Do you know what intimacy is?
Not really.
Okay, so intimacy is basically couples being intimate with each other. Intimate would mean like affectionate and showing each other how they care and like hugging and kissing and stuff. So displays of affection really. Then Day 4 is one of the negative ones, would be anger management, something I know a lot of people struggle with. Then Day 5, we're going to actually be talking about the cuts-up principle. Are you aware of anything along the cuts-up principle at all?
Not at all.
Basically, it's basically a method to confront people. For C, U means to understand the person's point of view. D is to define the problem that you're having with each other. S is searching for solutions, and A is coming to an agreement. So that's where the cuts-up comes in actually. Then Day 6, we're going to do an overview of everything that we've spoken about and just do a summary, and then we're going to talk a bit about your past and present relationships, see how you've developed over the last few weeks, over your few years as well. Are you happy with all of that?
I'm perfectly fine with it.
Okay, awesome. So first thing that I'm going to start with today is I'm going to ask you to define for me what you think a relationship is.
Okay, so relationship I think is based on the relationship between two people that's built on trust, honesty, loyalty. Just more love and caring that's involved.
Okay. Is a relationship always just two people?
Well, it's better known for 2 people, but some people prefer more than 2 people.
Okay, so what you're describing is just an intimate relationship. Do you know how there are many different types of relationships? For example, workplace relationships, so your relationship with your colleague, not basically a physical relationship like with your boyfriend or girlfriend, your family relationship, so how you spend time with the family. So a relationship, I would say, is a connection between people, or a common connection between 2 people would be a better way to describe it. So in that, with regards to relationships now, do you feel that you're a person who likes having relationships in terms of with lots of people, or you not really one for people in general?
No, I like having relationships with people. It's always good to have a good relationship with people. You never know if they can open the next door for you or whatever may come on your path.
That's very, very true. So relationships wise, you obviously, as you get older, you get different types of relationships that you go through. Your first one is obviously going to be with your parents because you live at home with your family. Describe to me a little bit about your relationship with your parents.
Well, it's a typical family relationship. Like there will be arguments, there will be disagreements, but then there's always like that first love that you will have with your parents. That's no love that you will ever have with someone else.
That's very, very true. Then after your parents, I'd probably say siblings and stuff, because if you do have siblings, they would be the next people in the line. I'm sure you have a sibling. I've met him. So what's your relationship with your brother?
It's basically a typical brother-sister, always arguing, but there's always that I've got your back type of relationship.
Okay, 100%. Next on, what would you say your next relationship in life was? Friendship. And your very first friend, how old were you when you made your very first best friend?
Phew, that is like grade 1.
Okay, so describe that. How did you guys meet? What happened? What made you guys become good friends?
To be honest, I don't quite remember exactly how we met, but it was kind of like a just go with the flow thing, you know.
Okay.
Where you felt like you were alone at school, so you actually did want to know someone at school at least. And basically, from there on, we became best friends, and today still we are.
100%. Next relationship, I would say, would probably be with your teachers while you're in school. Because you say you met your friend in grade 1. Did you ever have a relationship with the teacher in terms of like a bad argument with them, or they put you down all the time, or was all your teachers generally very nice to you?
No, there were some that I had disagreements with, or that would have been a bully or something, but I think it's basically if you just get to know them and know where you stand with them, then you will have a better relationship, you know. And if they know where you're struggling, they will be able to help you, and so you can help them understand you too.
Yeah, 100%. Now we get on to the very interesting one. Physical relationships. Have you been in a physical relationship with a person that you felt feelings for?
Yes, I have been.
And
Still am.
still are. So only one?
No, there has been more.
There's been a couple. So what actually worked in your relationships previously that's actually led you to this point where you are now?
Like, what is the key?
What is the key for you in relationships?
Communication and honesty.
Okay, 100%. Then next thing would be, obviously now that we've passed school, next thing is work. Do you have relationships with any of your colleagues at work?
Some of them, yes, but it's not really that one of those people that you would really have deep connection with. You would just have work related, and not those that you would hang out with after work. It's just professional work ones.
Okay, so it's more of a professional relationship than a physical or emotional relationship with somebody.
Yes.
Okay, that's very interesting because you, as you can tell, there's quite a lot of different types of relationships. Have you noticed something between all of these relationships? What's important between them all?
You know, like I would say, I think communication and honesty.
Okay, but one key factor to all of these relationships is actually you. You're the only person who has been a part of every single one of these relationships. Do you know why that is?
No.
Because you decided that you want to start a relationship with somebody, not a physical or emotional or any sort of, just a relationship with that person. They then went and decided, okay, they're also willing to do it. So you guys met up, for example, and you guys became friends, or you had your teacher put into your, or you were put into a teacher's class, then you developed a relationship over time, or with your parents. I mean, you don't really get to decide that, but you with them. So that would be one important thing, is you are every part of every relationship. Do you know what intrapersonal and interpersonal means?
Not at all.
Okay, so interpersonal, just think of something like international. What does that mean? It means lots of countries, right? So interpersonal means personal relationships, interpersonal, so relationships with everyone else. Then you get intrapersonal, which is inside yourself, so your relationship with yourself. We have discussed a bit of interpersonal relationships now, like your teachers and stuff. So we're going to discuss more about the relationship you have with yourself. Okay. So just tell me a bit about yourself, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, why you've come to those things. So you can just go ahead and I'll just listen and take down some key points and we can discuss some of those things.
Okay. Activities wise or people wise?
Just in general, what you like.
In general, I like meeting people, making friends, and I always like to listen to them and always try and help out where I can, because you never know, like I said before, what they can put on your path that might help you build a better future. Things I don't like is dishonesty, of course, and if there is no communication.
No communication, okay. you said you really enjoy meeting people. So because you're obviously meeting a lot of people on a daily basis, for example, with work or with social media that's all around at the moment, do you feel that that's a good way to build relationships, meeting lots of people?
I think so, yes, it's a good start.
It's a good start. And do you think that there could be a negative thing with meeting so many people though?
There could be, because you never know if they find out something about you, and you don't know if you can really trust that person, and then everyone all of a sudden knows about it.
Okay, so two things you mentioned were listening to people and trust. You did mention earlier that trust is one of the big things that you have when it comes to relationships, and listening from your side. Oh, excuse me. Do you feel that listening is a two-way thing, or do you feel that only, for example, let's say me and you are having a conversation and you listening but I'm not listening when you speak, do you think that we'll have a good, strong relationship, or would it just be something that's more along the lines of just one person who cares, the other one doesn't really care?
No, it should come from both ways. Both people should listen, and in that way you can communicate better and solve things in a better way out.
That's very, very true. Then with regards to trust, do you feel trust is the most important aspect of a relationship?
I do think so, yes. It builds a better relationship between the people.
More important than communication?
To be honest, it's a bit difficult to tell because both is important.
Okay, based on past relationships you've had, not physical relationship, just in general, which has come up to be more important? A person's trust or the ability to communicate with them?
Trust, definitely.
Trust more. Why so?
You know, if people feel like they can't talk to you, and like they always say, if there's no trust, there's nothing that's between the two of you. So
Very, very true. Very, very true. Okay, we're going to get back onto you again, intrapersonal relationship. Do you feel like, for example, for yourself, that you've grown as a person in terms of like how you see yourself, or do you feel like you see yourself in a negative light?
to be honest, it's a bit difficult to answer, but through the relationships and through every person that I've met, there's something new I've learned about myself.
Okay.
So I would say there is some improvement.
Okay, that's very good. So your interpersonal relationship, you'd say you have a good relationship with yourself? As weird as that sounds?
There is times that I don't believe so, but there's times that I do think so.
Okay, just elaborate a little bit on each reason.
There's sometimes where I feel like I don't understand with some things that I do, but then I know there's always a reason behind it.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. So you'd say interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships go hand in hand?
In a way I think so.
Okay, because you did mention that based on your other relationships, you've developed more like knowledge about yourself. So that's the reason I asked this question, because what you say, I listen to you and just try and come up with ways to make sure that you're actually listening to what you're saying and not just talking. That's one of the things that people tend to do, and that can affect relationships in a way that may seem very simplistic, but it's actually something. So this is just a way of me helping you with relationships. That's why we're doing this for this next 6 sessions. So I feel that you are paying attention to what you're saying. You've built yourself up to a certain level, and I don't want to say in a bad space, but you're in a space where you sort of understand but need help, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, one thing that's very important to a lot of people is, in a relationship, do you feel that rewarding the other person is a key factor? Because, I mean, for example, if you take your girlfriend out for lunch, or in your case, your boyfriend out for lunch, because he's done good or done well in his job, or he does something well, and then you reward him, do you think it's an important thing in relationships?
I kind of think so, because you have to show that you appreciate his hard work, that you are proud of him, and that he also has to feel good about himself.
So you'd say there's a lot of support involved in
Yes.
relationships. Okay, so if you have somebody supporting you, do you feel that the relationship is better off for you, or do you feel that it's just a necessary thing, so he should be she should be supporting you anyway?
No, I mean, you should show you care actually. So it's a good thing if supporting is involved at a lot of times.
Okay, so would you say that's a very big key factor in relationships? Because you did mention trust and you also mentioned communication. So with those two in mind, you didn't mention support. So that's why I'm just bringing it up a little bit to see if it is important, or if you just, those are the two most important, then support and other stuff fall behind that.
No, support is one of them, but trust and communication are the first things that come up to your mind.
Okay, 100%. So next thing we're going to be talking about is the relevant skills that people need for their relationships. Do you know, just name some skills that you think are necessary for relationships.
Listening skills.
Very, very true.
And communication skills.
Communication skills. Anything else? Think about what I told you we're going to discuss in days 1 to 5 and 6. Just a few things that I mentioned are actually important to any relationship.
It's a bit difficult to think of any other, to be honest.
Okay, so listening skills was the first thing you mentioned, but you're not using your listening skills. The next thing was selecting relationships. So choosing who you want to be in a relationship with and why you want to be in a relationship. The third thing is actually a thing that blocks relationships, which is shyness. Shyness is one of those things that we all struggle a little bit with at times, just to find out we actually don't need it. We don't need to be shy. If we know, we know. The next thing was intimacy, something that we discussed, or that I mentioned earlier. Being intimate with your partner, or being intimate not necessarily in a physical way, like for example, just being there to support somebody, giving them a hug when they're feeling down. That would be an intimate gesture. The next one is assertiveness. Do you know what assertiveness means?
No.
Basically, it would be me telling you how to do things in a way that's not coming across like I control you. So that's assertive. It's like me saying, clean the dishes or sweep the floor while I'm doing something else. It's basically there to make sure that somebody is in control, but not in a way that they have control over everything. The second last thing is problem solve. It's anger management. Sorry, anger management is something everyone needs to work on. We all have our times where we get very angry and just upset, and we just lose our cool. The final thing that I've written, at least for my notes, would be problem solving, which would refer to the Katsa principle, which we did discuss earlier. So we're just going to talk a little bit about each of these skills and then see what your understanding of each of these things is. Are you happy with that?
100%.
Okay, so the next thing on our list will be just relevant skills that I think are necessary for a relationship. Can you tell me a few things that you think are necessary for relationships?
I think communication, trust, loyalty, honesty, and support is the keys to a relationship.
So one thing that I picked up there, which I actually didn't have down, is loyalty. Describe what you understand by loyalty.
Loyalty, knowing that you can let the person know that he can trust you wherever you go, whoever you talk to, and basically with whatever's going to happen, just to ensure the person.
Okay, and trust is a part of loyalty that you mentioned there. Do you feel trust is, like you said, one of the most important things in a relationship? Is that for every sort of relationship that you have?
Definitely. It's definitely one of the most important things, because that's how you can build a good relationship with one another.
Okay, 100%. So the first skill that I've actually put down here is listening. Do you feel that you're a good listener?
I am, yes, even though I'm half deaf at times.
Okay, and listening doesn't always mean that actually just hearing what somebody's saying. Listening is taking it in, actually processing what that person is saying and not just hearing what that person is saying. So do you feel that you are an active listener or somebody who just hears things?
No, I listen. While I look at them, I listen to them. It's not like it's going in by the one ear and going out by the other one.
Okay, so you actually processing everything that's coming in. So if I had to ask you 5 minutes down the line what we were talking about with listening, you'd be able to give me an answer on that.
Yes.
Okay, we'll test that out. The next step that I've actually got is selecting or starting relationships. Do you find that when you first meeting somebody, it's easy to select whether you're going to have a relationship with them, whether it's going to be a good or bad thing based on first opinions of the person?
To be honest, it's going to be a bit difficult to tell at the beginning because obviously you have to still get to learn to get to know the person better at the beginning to know where it's going to lead you.
Okay, sure thing. So one thing that I heard there is you have to get to know them first. So you don't believe in first impressions at all?
No, I do, but according to first impressions, you get to know them better then, and then after that.
Okay, so would you say first impressions are important, or do you believe that it's time actually leads you on to see if the relationship's going to start?
Well, first impressions won't always be a good impression, but that's why you have to get to know them, because who knows, the first impression could have been a bad impression, but the person might not be a bad person after all.
Okay, the reason I asked this question is because a lot of people go based on first impressions. So I just want to get to sort of know the type of person that you are, just so that I know exactly if, for example, I meet you in the street, your first impression of me is this encounter, for example, you're going to see me as just a life coach, or you're going to see me as just a person in general. So that's the type of questions that I ask, just to get a broader view of the person you are. The next thing is shyness. Do you think you're a shy person?
Yes, I am a shy person, but over some times, over a certain time basically, you will get to learn how to work with shyness, and you just have to go out of your comfort zone to work on that.
Okay, you say you are a shy person. Has there been any specific time where you've struggled with shyness in, for example, meeting up with somebody or with your family or anything?
Yes, meeting up with a person, yes. Family-wise, not really, because meeting up with a person is like the first time you see them maybe or something, then you don't know how to take the lead or something, but then you just have to go with the flow.
Okay, and what about family members that you haven't met before? For example, your distant cousins or something. What about them? Do you feel shy when you meet those type of people?
Yes, I do at times, because you don't know what to expect. But, since it's family, you should be feeling comfortable around them, giving them a chance to get to know you better, you get to know them better.
Very, very true. The next step is intimacy. Do you understand the word intimacy?
I do, in a way, yes.
Okay, so just give me your understanding of what intimacy is.
Intimacy, what I understand of, is the intention you give to a person. Sorry.
The attention you give to a person.
Yes.
Okay, so I would more describe intimacy of your way of showing affection to somebody. So, for example, if somebody's feeling down, you give them a hug, or if a boyfriend and a girlfriend give each other a kiss to show that they love each other, that would be more intimacy in my eyes, at least. That's why I ask you, so that I can gauge your opinion on this sort of thing and just help you along to see maybe intimacy in a different light, or any of the topics that we're actually discussing in a different light, to basically help you with the relationship that you have been struggling with. So do you feel intimacy is an important part to any relationship?
I don't think it plays that much of a big role, to be honest.
Why not?
Because, how you get along with the person is basically your way and their way of going with one another.
Okay, so for you, intimacy is not a big thing at all?
Not really.
And in physical relationships with anyone, do you then believe intimacy is a big thing?
Then I'll believe it's a bit more important, but still not that important yet.
So it's basically situational, but still is not that important.
Yes.
Okay, I understand that. Then with regards to assertiveness, do you find yourself to be an assertive person?
Depends on how the other person would take it with, due to certain situations.
Okay, so let's do a scenario here quickly. You and your boyfriend go out and you taking him out and you tell him, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and you don't give him a chance to speak. Do you feel that's assertive or do you feel that's being dominant over him?
I feel that's more dominant.
Okay.
You should give him also a chance.
So what I'm understanding from what you're understanding now is that assertive means you want something done a certain way, but you're also giving the other person a chance to put their idea forward.
Yes, that's just fair.
Okay, so that's 100%. And with assertiveness is something that a lot of people struggle with is anger management specifically. I know a lot of people can't really control their anger, which can be a bit frustrating for the recipient, or in my case, I get a lot of people who talk and they get upset about certain things, so I have to sort of manage their anger. But anger management is more of a personal thing. Do you struggle with anger management at all?
I do at times, but with time you learn to manage with it, how to deal certain situations.
Okay, give me an example of a time that you had to manage your anger, and then one time where you completely lost it and you couldn't manage it.
You get some people with how they walk up to you, how they handle a certain situation, and you maybe had a long day or so, and you don't feel like you want to struggle really with that person. Or they say something and you may be a bit oversensitive, and then you would also be getting angry, and then it gets all out of control.
Okay, so give me an example of each now.
Basically, like I'm a cashier at the shop, right?
Okay.
And whenever I have to stand by a door, sanitize people's hands, the way they come up to you after they have to stand in a queue, and the way they approach you is how you're going to react to it. Like if they are frustrated, you obviously, after you had a long day, you're also going to be frustrated. But you have to ensure that you have to stay calm to make sure that the other person also stays calm at the same time.
Okay, so that's your way of anger management. And now, has there ever been a case for you where you haven't managed the anger and you completely lost it? Not necessarily at work, it can be with family, it can be with anybody. Have you had a situation like that?
Family, yes, where it feels like it's an argument that's going nowhere, where there's no point. And like I said, after you had a long day, then you just feel frustrated and you just feel like you have lost your marbles.
Okay, 100%. So the last thing that I have written down, at least for relevant skills, would be problem solving. Do you feel problem solving is important in any relationship?
Definitely. It's definitely important to know what do you think, how can you solve the problem to improve your relationship with one another.
Okay, and have you heard of the CUTSA acronym?
Yes, in a way, yes.
Okay, do you know what the CUTSA acronym actually stands for?
I can't exactly remember what it stands for.
Okay, so I'm just going to list each letter and tell you a little bit about each letter, and then you're going to tell me a time where you've had a situation, and we're going to use your example of when you're standing at the door and customers coming up to you, and then they're in a bad mood, you managing your anger. So one thing I like is all of these things actually link up to each other. So for C, for the CUTSA, is to confront the problem. So that would mean like you finding out what the problem is, then seeing what way you're going to do to resolve the problem. So confronting the problem would be the first step. Then second would be the U, for understanding the other person's point of view. Understanding why that person feels the way they do. Why they must also understand why you feel the way you do in any situation. Then the third one is D, defining the problem. You must see what the problem is. You can come to an agreement, which is actually A, right at the end, defining the problem and finding out why each person is upset. Then once you have why, you're going to be searching for solutions, which is S. searching for solutions as to what you can do to basically make each party come to an agreement. And the last one being A is the agreement. That way you've got the problem, found a solution, come to an agreement. So as you can see, they all link there quite nicely together. So we're going to just role play with your example that you had about customers at the door. So what would the problem be, for example, when you're coming to it, and what are you confronting with the problem?
I don't quite understand the question, to be honest.
Okay, so when customers have problems while you're standing at the door, how do you confront the problem?
So basically, we use the method we have at work as customer service and how to be solving a problem. And basically, we use our steps such as step 1, where you would listen to the customer, ask how you can assist them, and then you repeat the problem that they have, and then you tell them what you will be doing, what actions you will be taking, and then you make the promise, and then you do a follow-up on it.
Okay, so your confrontational part would be to come to the problem and get to know what the customer's needs are and how you're going to handle it.
Yes.
Then do you understand their point of view, like why they have this problem? For example, if I'm a customer and I come in upset and I don't want to talk to you and you tell me to sanitize and I lash out at you, do you understand their reasoning behind everything?
Yes, because each one of them have a problems, like their hands are dry, or because we all are customers actually, where we get to each shop and sometimes we react the same way as the customers.
Very, very true. The next one would be to define the problem. So you would say to yourself what you understand of this problem and how you are going to handle the situation. So in that same situation where the customer's coming in, is upset, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to, how would you define that problem?
You would obviously be using your listening skills, see the extra mile you can go for the customers, see how you can assist them and help them and make sure they leave with a smile.
100%. Then searching for the solution, which is something you basically just told me about now, is how you're going to do things. So what solutions would you come up with to a customer's problem who's come in, they don't want to sanitize, gets upset when you tell them to sanitize? What would your solution to this problem be?
So basically we have the sanitizer, then we have the wipes at work, the sanitizing wipes. So okay. I tell them if they want to, they're more than welcome to use the wipes, but it's for their own safety and for our own safety that they have at least just sanitize, even if it's just a tiny bit.
Yeah, so that would be a nice solution, is an alternative to the normal hand sanitizer. Then you get customers who will come to an agreement on that, so they'll do that. But do you ever have a situation where the customer is just like, no, I'm not going to sanitize at all?
Yes, we do get that a lot, and we do get frustrated with them. And we try and be understandable, and we try and talk them in just to sanitize their hands for their own safety.
Okay. Just a quick overview before we're done. How do you feel the session has gone so far?
I felt that there was a lot I could have got off my chest, frustrations in that, but I felt it did me good to talk a bit about it.
Okay, so just the last thing that I'm going to do is just give you a little bit of homework that you're going to do for the next session. You don't have to write anything down. What I want you to do is just to go out and talk to 10 new people, build a relationship with 10 new people over the next week, see how that goes, and then you can tell me how each different situation or each different person was when you confronted them, spoke to them, saw how their personality was, and how you can see if they're going to be a positive relationship or if you're just going to completely never see that person again in your life. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for the first session. I will be seeing you again next week.
Okay.